So I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of underwhelmed with this episode. So yeah. Okay, so this is the Bad Batch. This is season 2, episode 10, Retrieval, which is saying exactly what this episode is, not the fact that the Bad Batch are retrieving their ship. And it's interesting how the episode starts. Like, it starts off with where the last episode kind of left off, with the group in this abandoned town, and they're working on getting a speeder together. I love Wrecker just being like, "Why are we working on this hunk of junk?" And then text like, "Because if it works, it'll be a somewhat working hunk of junk," I think is what the exact words. But because in the last episode Sid said it will take her a few days to get a ship to them, they figured, yeah, we can't wait it out. We're gonna try and find another way off planet. So that's what the speeder is for. They're just gonna travel to another town, maybe see if they can find more resources or a possible ship. But then, as they're talking, Omega gets the idea that there is a way to track the Marauder, and that is with Gonki, the Gonk droid, which I'll admit, completely forgot that they had that. I mean, sometimes I feel like I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you forget they have it, but when you actually think about it, you're like, wait, yeah, but this thing's been around for a while. Like, Gonki has been on the crew, has been part of the Marauder since Clone Wars. Like, but the fact that he's that forgettable sometimes, it's just, oh man, that sucks. But Omega gets the idea that they can track the Marauder with Gonki, and then they do, and they discover that the Marauder is still on the planet, so that's what they use the speeder for. They go to find the Marauder that's at this kind of like mine, this big mine that kind of almost looks like one of those like kind of like 1313 on Coruscant. I forgot what those are called, and I'm having a blank on this right now because I'll say this, from what happened in the last episode, the main thing about the last episode I felt like was like, not a lot happened. And this one, I can kind of say the same thing, because, I mean, the big thing about this episode is they have to go to get the ship. They get then that's what happens. They get the ship, but they gotta go through this kind of like, this crime boss kind of guy. I mean, he isn't technically a crime boss, but he's just this dude, I think Mako was his name, and he's basically, he's kind of just running this whole thing. He's promising his people that if they work hard, they'll be rewarded. He has he's like, what's the, he has this like winner of the month kind of thing, and what do they get? They get a bowl of soup that, compared to the literal buffet that he has in his own room, it's just ridiculous. Like they literally have a scene of him, just, I swear, like he's like in an eating contest. Like, he literally is just grabbing everything he can, just munching down on everything as fast as he can, slurping everything as fast as he can. I'm like, it looks so weird, and I don't know if, like, you put that in context, you're thinking like, wait, so is this how this guy always eats, or has he not eaten in a while? Like, what? But the thing about, I don't know, so I think the thing about this episode that got me like feeling like it was going through the motions, it wasn't like adding things that I haven't felt or seen, like at least in other episodes, when it came to like reintroducing a character like Gungi from Clone Wars, or introducing something cool like the giant mech, or the giant tall neck Zepho robot in the other episode, Entombed, I think it was like, or even just the fun episode, like the idea of like kind of like these more, or these pod racing, not pod racing, what were they called? Like danger, or was it like, yeah, it was something like Danger Race or something though. the one where Tech kind of has to race. Like, that's another fun idea. This one, it's just, they lose their ship. They have to go through this organization where you get where you kind of have like this big bad who is kind of, he's hogging all the profits, hogging all the food. You got these people, some of them, or for the most part, or all of them, I should say, for the most part, believe that this man is doing good, when in reality he's actually just holding back on them. And Yuri Lowenthal, which is actually honestly, he's probably the one main thing I really was like, this is what makes this episode fun for me. And that's because, I mean, Yuri Lowenthal, he's done so many great characters. Like, Spider-Man in the PS4 game, and heck, even in the after Spider-Man PS4, he's done a lot of Spider-Man games. I think he was Ben 10 in Alien Force. He was a lot of fun in that. And he's just one of those voices where the second I hear him, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Like, and I'm always thinking I'm hearing him in other pieces of media. Like, I think there was an Owl House episode. I'm like, was that Yuri Lowenthal? Or no? I think there was like an Amphibia episode where I even thought about that. So, just him in this episode was what it kind of got me thinking. Like, oh, this is fun. This is making this kind of lifting it up from just being the generic things that I have seen before. Now, granted, maybe this isn't the first time some viewers have seen this kind of setup. Like, technically speaking, this is kind of like a kids-ish show. I mean, there's still some adult things that happen, but, you got some it's mainly for kids, for the most part. But, so, yeah, I don't know. But, okay, going back to what happens in the episode. So, the Bad Batch, they get to this mine, and they catch Yuri, or his name is Benny in this episode, who, after he gave the ship to Mako, he figured if he stole the ship, he'd get a big take, but Mako doesn't really appreciate it. He's like, obviously the main reason for it is because it's not like a typical, these people, this is a mining group. It's like an Imperial ship, basically, so Mako's like, I gotta strip it down part by part and sell it that way. But, of course, Yuri's like, dude, but I did good, right? Like, was this get me the top earner of the... I mean, he's basically... I mean, I kind of already know where it's gonna go, and a part of me was hoping it wouldn't. That being like, it's like he's trying to do good, he wants to get, he wants to get food, he wants to... kind of just survival of the fittest in this kind of way. But by the end of the episode, him and everyone else learns the truth of what Mako really is doing to them, and they rebel against him, and eventually leads to one of the most ridiculous ways to die, in my opinion. I think the funniest, I remember just looking on, after watching the episode, I went on and looked for some comments, and I think someone literally said wow, he rolled multiple ones on that, and I'm like, yeah, he kind of did, because the thing, so when they get to that part of the episode where everyone's confronting Mako, they're on a rope bridge basically, and so I thought what was gonna happen was the group, they're on both sides, so I thought Mako was gonna do something crazy and maybe threaten to cut the bridge or something, or maybe his robotic arm was gonna grapple off and he was gonna do something like that, but no, he literally just, he swings, misses so hard that he loses his balance, falls over a rope bridge, he falls over and he's hanging off. And then Benny comes to save him, and then he grabs Benny's arm, and it looks like he's going to try and pull him down with him, but instead he slips and he falls to his death. On one hand, that's pretty ridiculous and funny, because it shows kind of shows how, because this dude's so full of himself and he thinks he's untouchable, he literally falls to his death because of his own stupidity and ignorance. And I guess that's kind of funny, but at the same time, I'm thinking, I don't know if that was a for an episode like this, is that really a crazy death? Like, it kind of felt like, yeah, it felt underwhelming in a way, you know? I mean, granted, this isn't like a big bad or anything. I mean, they kind of built him up as this kind of like slob, bad dude that maybe needs to go, but the fact that he just falls to his death is just like, nah. I mean, I guess they tried to make it a little comedic, but it's just, I don't know. But how we get to that point is still rather interesting. I mean, like I said, you know, Benny's the one who stole the Marauder, and he is just out and about. He has Gonky with them, so of course the Bad Batch find him, and I did love the way that they show up, and a part of me was like, okay, they're kind of a little, like, this is, beforehand, because, I think it's because since we've seen the Bad Batch a lot, we know that for the most part, they're more of like a, you know, it's like it's a group of guys, and they're kind of like, and Omega, you know, they're kind of like a family. So, you know, there's gonna be moments where they're arguing. There's moments going to be the laughs. But this moment when, you know, Benny's just talking to the Gonky, and he's like, "What am I gonna do with the defective droid?" And then all of a sudden, Hunter from behind is like, "That's our defective droid." It's just that sudden intimidating sound is like, oh god. And then of course Benny turns around, and there's Hunter and Tech there, and just Tech, I think it's just because of how his helmet is with the visor, doesn't look that threatening, but this Hunter there looks very threatening. And then Benny, at first I thought Benny, you know, gave him the slip, and I'm like thinking, come on guys, you're better than this. But no, Benny gets on his speeder, goes around, and Wrecker just clothesline. It's just what? It's such a swift, violent takedown on him. I'm just like, God, there. But at the same time, I'm like thinking, he did steal their ship, so there is a bit of like anger and grudge there, maybe. So, and even Omega, you know, she like comes in with the bow and just like literally aims it right at it under his chin, just being like, I'll fire right under there. And it is the one moment of the episode where I'm just like, oh god, that's very threatening. And then, so basically Benny has to work with them, otherwise, you know, they probably wouldn't have killed him. They're just threatening him, basically. So Benny helps him get to the ship, which requires them to go into the mine, but not through the main entrance. They actually have to go through the chimney, like the gigantic steam, the smokestack, basically, which, I'll admit, the second I saw it, I immediately thought back to Batman Arkham City. I'm like, oh my god, are they gonna like jump down and they're gonna have to like grab, or are they gonna have like a glider or like a grappler or something? Kinda, like they go down, you know, they grapple down, but they have like a window of opportunity where, you know, they have like 60 seconds before boom, like the smoke literally fires up, and so Hunter goes down. He has to fight a droid, and there's even a moment where Benny drops his flashlight, and then Hunter has to reach out and grab it, and it's like so that's a fun little moment. And Hunter, you know, he fights the droid, but then he leaves the droid in the stack and just lets it blow, and it's like they get to the ship. The ship's a little damaged, but of course they still got to get it out of the mine, and there's a ray shield covering it up. So Benny's like, oh, we can go to the main control room, but we got to get a card from one of the guys. So they go. So him and Omega. And I thought that was interesting, you know, Omega's the one that goes with them, and a part of me was like trying to think like, okay, what kind of dynamic are they gonna do here with that? Because, you know, like the more, like Benny is a kid, so I mean, the more time Omega interacts with people like her, who are in her like age range, like remember last season we had Cut's kids. I think we had another episode with, I think there was another kid that she interacted with at one point in an episode. And then, of course, we had Gunji earlier this season. So, you know, I feel like every time she's interacting with someone closer to her age, she kind of gains a little bit more understanding of, like, growing up in this time. And that is something she does see here. You know, she sees how Benny and these others are having to live in this situation, and the way Benny has to kind of survive and has to think outside the box when it comes to getting food. Like, he literally says, like, I'm great at mining and being a thief. And Omega's like, that's being a thief is not a skill. And then Benny replies, not when you're good at it. It's just like it's kind of true. I mean, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of the thing. Omega, she is the viewer, kind of, in a way, for, like I said, being a kids kind of show. She's the viewer for the kids, showing like, oh, what is this? Kind of like when it came to Senator Chuchi, yeah, I think, yeah, in the Truth and Consequences episode and the Clone Conspiracy episode, just her learning about the Senate there. Now she's here learning about this kind of like unfair society in a way. And so Benny, shows her a few things, and they get the control room, but then Omega finds the thing to deactivate the shields. But however, she also discovers the truth, being like, oh, you guys are actually, your profits are really, 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 really good. You said you guys are really scraping for profit. And then, of course, Benny sees that, and he's just like, oh no. Like, because he actually reported Omega to Mako, and, at first it seems like Mako is gonna reward him, but not really. So then Benny, decides. And then when we get to the bridge, Tech Hunter and Wrecker, they get found out. So eventually it leads to a standoff on the bridge where Mako is at the center. He's just, he's threatening the group, mainly because they're in it's Ipsium mines, and one wrong explosion or shot leads to utter catastrophe. And I thought that's where this episode was gonna go. I thought something was gonna go wrong where the mine was gonna give out, and so the group would have to work with everyone to escape. And then maybe lead them to the abandoned town, and then show them the Ipsium mine that they found. Like, I thought that's where it was gonna go, because that would have made it a little more interesting, especially with the escape way plan. But no, in this situation, the most, outside of Mako's death, we have Omega, who was captured, and she's being held by a droid over a ledge. And at first I'm like thinking, okay, so she's caught again, how is she gonna get out of this? And I'll admit, this one was it was cool, because, Hunter grapples up to her, and Omega sees it, so she immediately knows Hunter's coming up to catch me, so I can take out this droid and get caught by Hunter. So basically, two birds, one stone kind of thing. Like, she literally fights off this droid, kind of leans back with it, and they fall. And so then Hunter catches her, and then the droid just falls to its death. So it's a pretty nice little moment to show that Omega and Hunter have that trust level up there. Just being like, I can literally fight this droid off and take it down with me because I know Hunter will catch me, kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if you want to get to that point in any situation where it's like, okay, I'm going to fall with this guy that's holding me hostage, and I know my friend is going to catch me. That's just me. But then, like I said, Mako falls to his death. Everyone learns the truth. They get their share. Everything starts to look great for these people. Benny even says, like, hey, if you need a thief, let me know. But Omega does look and see, like, feels like, man, if there's people like them all over the galaxy, we should start helping them. And then Tech mentions how, well, there might be people like them all over the galaxy, but there's people like us, people who do help them. And I like that line too, like, because one, I mean, he's a clone, so of course there's like millions of them all over the galaxy. Two, he's maybe thinking of Rex and Echo in that moment, thinking like, they're also helping people in another part of the galaxy. And also, it's a nice little, like, boost of confidence, just being like, yeah, there are people like us all over the galaxy. It's not just us doing this here. It's people all over the world, all over the galaxy. I mean, heck, we know rebels are going to be coming soon, so, you know, there are people who do help, but I don't know. I guess just for me, most of this episode felt very run-of-the-mill kind of thing. You know, I was hoping for a little bit more, I guess. I don't know. It's just me right now. I mean, maybe I'll watch this episode tomorrow and be like, oh wait, now I can see it. But right now, I think it's alright. I think it's fine. I mean, I don't think it's terrible. I just think it's good. Not fantastic, not phenomenal, not awful, just good. So, yeah, those are my thoughts.